So I wanted to do a shop tour and an update for all of you, but I also needed to clean up my shop after constructing Deacon Taproom. So I thought I'd do a quick shop tour voiceover while I cleaned up the shop, highlighting some of the areas of interest, focusing in on shop layout, organization methods, future enhancements, and the inspiration where this all came from. So you can see I've converted a one-car garage into my workshop. It's 11 by 19 space and does have some limitations due to the hot water heater in my house being located in it. I've added two 20-volt lines in the shop for the table saw and have an additional outlet in case it's needed in the future. I also have added some additional lighting on the ceiling and under the cabinets. I hope one day to put a small AC and heater in there so I can work during the sweltering heat of our North Carolina summers and when it gets colder in the winter. Overall though, it's a nice little shop and it works well for now, but there are definite enhancements and upgrades that we'll be doing over time. Let's start with the tools in the shop. I'm still tweaking the layout as I'll describe later, but the tools are laid out in a manner which allows me to break down large sheet goods easily and give me space for assembly. So one of the large tool purchases for me this year was the Grizzly G0690 table saw. It's a 10-inch, 3 horsepower, 220 volt cabinet saw with a riving knife. This is a huge upgrade from my old Ryobi contractor saw and allows me so much more precision and accuracy with my cuts. While there are more expensive saws out there and ones with better safety features, this is such a welcome addition to Deacon Woodworks. I couldn't be happier about it. And by the way, the sales and customer support staff at Grizzly were awesome. They answered all my pre-sale questions and took the time to walk me through the dimensions of the saw and what was the best configuration for me and the shop. Super awesome people. One addition I've made to the table saw is the Crosscut and miter sled combo from Ferry. He put together a wonderful video on the creation of this and I highly recommend watching it. Overall, the sled is a little pricey due to all the Craig accessories, but for what it does, the well thought out construction by Nick, the durability of the sled, and the multifunctional aspects of the miter sled combo, for the price of his plans and the supplies, it's definitely well worth the investment. I just have to dial in the back fence to get it square using the 5-cut method, but I really like having this in the shop. I just need to find a good place to store it other than at my feet while making a cut. Another addition to the table saw is going to be a modified Pulk Workbench. I purchased Ron's plans and reviewed what Jay Bates did for his shop. I'll probably approach my version of the Pulk Workbench in a similar manner as Jay. However, while I have space constraints and can only really make it 5 foot by 4 foot in dimension, I seriously need an outfeed table bad. I would like to integrate a router table into the workbench, and if at all possible, I hope Inventables is watching, put an X-carve under the workbench. So the second large purchase of the year was the Grizzly G0555 LANV 14-inch Deluxe bandsaw 30th anniversary edition. Whew, that was a mouthful. I don't do much resawing of lumber, so it usually has a 1/4-inch blade on it, allowing me to move wood through it cleaner, giving me more accurate curves and such. I'm looking forward to getting a copy of David Picciuto's new book called The New Bandsaw Box Book, Techniques and Patterns for the Modern Woodworker, and putting this machine to a real test with a couple of boxes. With the holidays coming up, I'd love to make a box or two as a gift, and one for me for storing playing cards when the guys come over to play poker night. And the final large purchase of 2015 was the Harbor Freight 70-gallon 2-horsepower industrial dust collector. I love this thing. While not the most expensive dust collection system on the market, it definitely does exactly what it advertises. Sucks up some massive dust. With a 20% off coupon, buying it during a sale period, you can't beat a $160 price tag. I have added one feature to the dust collector, which is the fast cap remote control vacuum. This is critical to have in my shop as I plan on moving the dust collector outside to a shed that I built on the backside of the workshop. I built the shed in the early spring, so I don't have a video, but there are pictures up on my Facebook page if you want to check out the build process. The shed was specifically designed to house this dust collector and other things like sawhorses, gardening equipment, my 6-foot ladder, and things I just didn't want taking up shop space. I'll be piping in PVC hard lines into the shop and then having the big tools hooked up to it. I'll try to make a video of that process, but I will probably use the wall hangers and blast gates that Jay Bates created and Tyler G used in their shops as well. Well, and the final tools in the shop like the chop saw, the joiner, planer, drill press, mechanics tool chest were all Craigslist finds. All very reasonably priced and in great condition. I also repurposed a 32-inch LCD TV from a guest bedroom and hooked an Apple TV up to it. Having the Apple TV has been an invaluable asset in the shop. I pull up YouTube videos all the time when researching things or looking for inspiration when tinkering in the shop. It really has been a nice luxury to have. So that's about it from a tool perspective. Let's talk a little bit about shop organization. There's so many wonderful videos out there on ways in which people organize their shops. And shop organization is so personal that there's no one way to do this. It's all about the individual, the nature of work they do, the space they have, yada yada yada. But this layout and organization scheme seems to work for me now and makes me more efficient in the shop for what I like to do. If I were to get into turning and need a lathe, then I'd probably have to rework the shop to get the workflow right to do those turnings. So I've taken some inspiration from a couple people with regards to shop organization. Adam Savage from Mythbusters and Tested in particular resonated with me and my personal organization style. In my humble opinion, Adam is crazy organized. I've adapted some of his methods into Deacon Woodworks, and as you can see on the left-hand side of the shop, I have two areas in which I have pulled directly from Adam. The first is having the right part on hand at all times. I hate making trips to the big box stores for a single screw or bolt. So I've invested, over time, picking up screws, bolts, and other fasteners here and there to build up a complete set. While this is nowhere near complete or to the level of the minutia as Adam's Sortimo system, but for a couple bucks in Harbor Freight sorting boxes, some scrap 3/4 inch plywood, and some oak strips for the face frame, I've created my own version of this. This system has room for growth built in based on my needs, but currently I have sorting boxes for wood screws, drywall screws, machine bolts, nuts, washers, both metric and standard, airgun nails, electrical trinkets like wire nuts and switch blades, etc. And the Harbor Freight boxes have registration marks on them so I can take out the one little box I need, close it back up, and know that the other screws won't get mixed up when it get put back in the shelf. The second organization tip I got from Adam was his drill bit organization. With so many drill, Forstner, spade, countersink, and self-centering bits, I needed a good way of organizing them. And not only needed to store them, but I needed to be able to get to the right size quickly without opening up those various plastic set boxes to see if I had the size I needed and where it was located. I took some advice from Adam and I purchased 3 Hoyt drill bit dispensers. I got them in wire sizes 1 through 60, alphabetical, and fractional. They're not inexpensive, and I'm sure there are cheaper ways of doing this type of organization, but these Hoyt dispensers are individually marked on the outside, divided for each bit size, and are in a nice metal box with drawer glides. I've been able to combine all the different types of bits into these dividers, so if I have a need for a number 6 countersink bit or a 3/8 inch brad point bit, then I know exactly where they are and can get to them quickly. I have lost countless bits in tool bags or on countertops that having them all in a single place is super helpful. I think I may move these over towards the drill charging station to make my workflow better, but I've really enjoyed having these on hand. Another person I took some ideas from, well, actually I used his plans, so it's probably more than just an idea, is Jay Bates. He put out a series of shop projects using a French cleat system that have seemed to work well for me in my shop space. I specifically built his drill and charging station, saw blade storage, and finishing rack. I really love the drill storage and charging station. Having all my drills and batteries in one location is fantastic. So in the spirit of using vertical wall space and freeing up valuable floor space, I added a couple small items to the French cleat system. First, I built the sandpaper holder to house all those sanding discs and belts. Then I added a couple tool holders to get the sanders out of a drawer and out in the open so they're easily accessible. And then I added a couple trays and other miscellaneous shelves for tapes and combination squares and speed squares. I've got a majority of the tools that I use on a regular basis up on the wall and within arm's reach. And that's really helpful for shop efficiency. I guess the last part of shop organization in our French cleat discussion would be the clamp racks. I got a great deal over at Acme Tools website, and I bit the bullet and bought almost a complete set of Irwin clamps. I have 4 of each of the various sizes, but as any woodworker can tell you, you can never have too many clamps. So let's talk about another workhorse in the shop, my chop saw. My chop saw station is something that I'm happy with, for now. However, I built it conceptually without really exploring how I was going to use it. I've already discovered some things that are not working for me. One, the span of the station needs to be longer or at least different. I have about 9 feet of space, but it's divided in half, so I only get about 4.5 feet of cut on either side of the blade. And that just doesn't work for trying to cut off 1 foot off an 8-foot stick. Second, there's no measuring system on the station. Much like Jay Bates did on his, I need a way to quick and easily set up repeatable cuts. So I may do some modification to the top and build in some sort of stop block system in the near future. And finally, the dust collection sucks. No pun intended. I have built a dust shield trying to prevent a dust storm from being thrown around the shop, but I think I'm going to have to put in a dust collection drop from the Harbor Freight. Hopefully when all things are said and done, I may have tackled the sawdust problem with this. So, a couple quick final notes on organization. The cabinets were Project Source cabinets from Lowe's. It was about the same price to buy these as it would have been to build, plus I was in a time crunch to get the shop set up as some client work that needed to be done. So I pulled these together and used the uppers as long-term storage for like drop claws, paint rollers, and other junk that I occasionally use. The lowers are actually more functional than I would originally thought. In the middle cabinet under the chop saw has a full extension drawer that I use to store my circular saws, angle grinder, jigsaw, sawzall, and it's nice to have the pull-out drawer so I don't have to crawl underneath to get things. The cabinet on the right actually houses my Boss Stitch 6-gallon air compressor. I rigged a switch to the outside of the cabinet by the bandsaw, and having it enclosed drops the noise level of the shop considerably. This is probably one of my favorite organization features, as it also put in piped air outlets up on the ceiling with a drop reel and plug-in ports on the walls. The rapid air garage system was super easy to install and worth it if you use a lot of air for nailers and dusting off work surfaces. Well, Deacon came to visit and he needed a little cleanup too, so we'll just blast him off. Okay, let's talk about future shop improvement projects. We've already discussed the modified Pulk Workbench and the integrated router table and hardlining piping of the dust collection system, but there are a couple other projects I want to tackle as well. The first being putting a coat of shellac or clear coat on the cabinets. I think it will look nice to have a clean and durable finish on these. Plus, I want to put all the stickers I've received from other YouTube content creators up on the upper cabinet doors. The second project is once the dust collection moves out into the shed, I want to build a sanding station in the back left corner. I will pick up another cabinet or two from Lowe's and put my belt sander and spindle sander up on the countertop. I'll add a French cleat and a pegboard on the wall and relocate the sandpaper holder and the palm sanders over to that area. I'm also thinking about making a downdraft table to assist in the reduction of the dust being thrown around such a small shop. Bob Claggett at I Like to Make Stuff made one in his assembly table, and I may implement that into the top of one of the base cabinets in the sanding corner. Well, nothing more riveting than watching a dude crazily run around, sweep, and clean his shop. But I hope that you got to see some of the things that I've done in my shop to stay organized and where I drew the inspiration from. I've included links to all the people and products I've mentioned in the description below. Please leave me a comment here or on social media if you have any questions about my shop, tools, or its organization. Well, that's it for this one. If you like this video and you want to see some of the future projects I've mentioned or some of the projects I've created in the past, then hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and share it with others. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.